It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
We are back, 1430 ESPN. It's Inside the Patch, your official Fresno State show. It's brought to you by Fresno Rack and Shelving and Porta Subs. Also, if you text the word Gnarley, Gnarley, to 51555, you make a $10 donation to Valley Children's Hospital. So I'm Gnarley Charley. I am your host. We are a Fresno Raiders show. Now, anybody that likes Fresno State likes the Raiders this year into some capacity. And so we want to spread the Fresno State Bulldog love throughout the Valley. That's what today is all about. So we lost. We're going to break down the game on why we lost. We also have special guest. I have Grim, the Raider fan that dresses up. He's an official Raider fan. He's going to be on the show. And he's bringing in a Cardinal fan, their official fan. We're going to talk to them. We're going to talk Fresno State football. We're going to talk with Brian Noe. He was a national sports talk show leader who's got roots in Fresno. But as we think about the game, it's not completely over the season. It's game number 1. All right? Yeah, here's my theory. If we can split all the division games, that means we got to beat the Chargers next time and win all the non-division games, we've got a shot of having a decent season. So, I mean, it's game 1. You cannot blame everything on the first game. And, man, it was a good effort. There were some spots where I said, man, we are good. Devontae Adams, he picked up just where he left off. In my opinion, I think Carr was forcing a little bit, but I also think Carr had a lot of pressure on him. And people forget, in 2016, Carr had a great season, MVP quality, and he broke his leg up for the playoffs. But that year, they had a line that was all veterans. Rodney Hudson was the center. He was the anchor, and it was expensive, and we couldn't afford it. But we didn't have all the good players around him like he does now. So there's that give and take with the line. Do you spend all the money on the line, or do you get rookies that will develop but take chances that they can block Khalil Mack and Bosa? Those guys are incredible. So my takeaway from the game really was the Chargers are really, really good. And the Raiders are really, really good too. And we almost came back and won. So we can play ball with these guys. Just got a little bit of work to do. So let's try to the Cardinals is this week. I am concerned that everyone's saying how we're going to kill them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't say that. Because you know that works, when you least expect it. Just like Fresno State's playing USC tomorrow. On paper, they're going to get killed. But that Bulldog heart and spirit says a different story. The Freedom Bowl, go back to then. I have a feeling USC is overlooking Fresno, and that could be the case. So that gives us a shot. I hope the Raiders are not overlooking the Cardinals. Yeah, they got blown out by the Chiefs. We need to have a good game. I don't want to go 0-2. So we want to see that happen. One of the greatest guys I've ever met, and I mean that. He worked here locally in sports radio. He's been on national shows. Tell me what you know, Brian Noe. The man that knows everything. Yes, that is a pun because it is Brian Noe, not spelled K-N-O-W. It's N-O-E. You spent time here in Fresno. How long were you here in Fresno?
About 3 years.
3 years.
No, I got chopped before 3 years.
Got chopped. We've all been fired in radio. That's what we do in this town. And you were
nationwide work reduction. Like I was one of thousands, not one of one. So
and that
it was about 2.5 years.
They get rid of you and get one other guy to do your job and his job.
Yeah, that makes me feel awesome. It's like let's replace this guy and like 9 other guys with this one guy. It's like, oh wow, I feel like Drew Lock in the Russell Wilson trade, where it's like, oh, so you traded me and like 9 other picks. Cool, I feel awesome now.
For one. That's right.
For one guy.
Well, okay, but let's be honest. I mean, you went to Notre Dame, or you're from the town of Notre Dame? The town?
Yeah, from the town, from South Bend. Didn't go to Notre Dame, but still root for them, even though they stink so far, yeah.
Well, when I met you, I was already working someplace else, but you have just a good sense of humor, and I remember when you were out of work, you'd come down to the radio station I was at and goof around with me. And then you started like things you need to know. And you were doing like kind of like this before this was a thing.
Yeah, I called them no-brainers.
No-brainers.
But it was just, oh, dude, I'll give you a quick story because I used to do them each weekday. I would do it was a sports take. So they would be anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes or so. But I would literally, it sounds like I had to walk uphill both ways to school.
Right.
It's my version of it. I would walk many times to the mall to go to an Apple store to edit my video that I would
you were going to buy the software and you would edit it?
Yeah, no, I didn't buy it. I didn't have money for it at the time. So I would just walk to the Apple store and edit it there and upload it. And that helped me get a job. I was going to stop doing radio stuff because I couldn't find a job. That was during the recession around 2009 and in 2010. And I finally found a job in Albany, New York. But I got that job mostly because they were watching my stuff. They were watching those no-brainers.
Well, I remember hearing, I was listening to national news and say, hey, Brian Noe and Brady Quinn are coming up. I'm like, it's got to be him. It's got to be Brian Noe. And you were working with Brady. What's that like?
Yeah, I worked with Brady for a couple of years. It was fine. I kind of think he wanted me off the show. I'm not sure about that.
Because you were funny.
I'm not positive about that, but I kind of think Brady's a guy. He's a little like me, and sometimes you get along with someone who's like you, and someone you hate someone who's like you. I think it was the latter. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but Brady's kind of like, here's my opinion, and if I thought it was different, if I thought the truth was different, I would let it be known. And Brady doesn't really like that. He doesn't like to be challenged.
Well, it's funny. That's one thing about sports radio is that your idea is to get the audience engaged. And sometimes it's making them mad or whatever, but having an opinion, having a take, you know?
Yeah. That's my favorite kind of radio is it's nothing demeaning. It's nothing that's uncomfortable. It's just we have a difference of opinion. That's what sports radio was built upon. You try to create that, like replicate it, even if it isn't genuine. So when it is genuine, that's gold, but not everybody sees it that way.
Right. Well, and I think our country can learn something from sports radio. It's okay not to agree, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's totally fine not to agree. It's just you can't be a complete jerk about it. But you know, who's gonna? Unless you're a bad person. I mean, come on. What's the point in doing that?
I was at a poker room the other day online, and I've got a Raider thing in it, and this guy out of the blue, Raiders suck. And I'm like, I didn't respond because I'm like, what am I supposed to say? Well, yeah, because you can only type like 5 words. Well, then. I'm like, I don't care what this guy says. I don't care.
Yeah.
And with Fresno State, I call them the Fresno State Raiders because, man, Devontae and Derek right here, the Valley is crazy. Even the people that hate the Raiders, the Niner fans, are kind of tended to say, we got to root for the Bulldogs, man. So there is that feeling here.
It's really cool that they've reunited, and if not for the interceptions by Derek Carr, I mean, they picked up where they left off in college. Yeah. You're talking 10 catches for 141 and a touchdown. That's a great debut for Devontae Adams. It was just those 3 interceptions were killers.
I mean, but if you look across the board, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a good day. A lot of people didn't have a good day. And I hate, because a lot of people say, well, they need to play that preseason game. And I'm like, no, I hate preseason. But maybe they do. Maybe Derek needed to get out on the field a little bit.
I think it would help. I think so, because what was it? The record was 3-8 for the quarterbacks that didn't get out there in the preseason at all. There's something to it. I thought the Rams in their debut against the Bills, they looked really sloppy. And I'm not going to attribute all of it to not getting out there in the preseason, but there's got to be something there. I know that was Sean McVay's first loss in week 1 as the Rams head coach, but I went back and looked, and nobody had a record better than 6-11 in any of those years that they won week 1. So they're beating up on mostly dog teams. So when you play a real team like the Bills after not playing in the preseason, I think it makes a little bit of a difference.
Well, I'm going to go with the fact that I think the Bills and the Chargers are better than we thought. I think they're pretty good teams. And I wish the Raiders would have had an easier game the first one, but the season is not over. It's like, overreaction on Monday is your first thing. You're like, I saw car sucks. Everybody's doing that, but you got to have some time. I'm not making excuses. We lost the game.
No, you got to give it a little bit of time. I think you're right. I think it's this middle ground. You don't want to overreact, and you don't want to underreact either.
Right.
And it's really hard to find it in the middle. But, yeah, of course you want to start off with a win. But to your point, the Chargers are a good team. I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And if you look at the Chiefs, if you look at the opposite way, the Chiefs started off great and won a game. And I think it's an overreaction with them. It turns into Tyreek who? It's week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. And also, man, their defense just flying around. They're so much faster. What have the Cardinals done without DeAndre Hopkins to anybody?
Nothing.
Right? It's like, why are you overreacting to the Chiefs after a week 1 win? It's crazy.
Well, and really, until there's 3 or 4 games, it's really hard to say what the truth is, you know? I mean, as a Raider fan, last year, I named my black cat, I named him Gruden. And then I said, you know what? He's really fast. I'm going to name him Ruggs. So I had this black cat named, used to be Gruden, now Ruggs. And then I named him Jinx because they were off the team. And I'm like, this cat is horrible. So everybody we're playing next week, I named him after the quarterback. So
I was like, what's his name now? Leatherwood? Like, what's the next phase of this poor cat's name, you know?
I'm telling you. And the whole reason I'm even doing this show is to unite the Valley about Fresno State and how there's so much man, the Raiders' footprint is all over Fresno. Valley Children's Stadium is now the Bulldog Stadium.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Derek
awesome.
Carr.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Valley
I know,
Children's
and
Hospital.
everybody's fired up, and you want to start off on the right foot, but like you're saying, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
If you just go back to last year, a couple of teams top of mind, think about the Ravens. The Ravens got off to this great start. They were 8-3. They missed the playoffs. They lost their final 6 games. So, and if you look at the Bengals were 7-6. That's not anything extraordinary. They were a whisker away from winning everything. They made it to the Super Bowl. So, you know, like, let's not overreact to week 1. Let's take everything into account, but you get a lot of overreaction after week 1.
Well, let me ask you, the NFL, it feels like the playoffs last year were crazy. Like, it's all coming down to the wires. Maybe that's what they want. But it seems like there's a lot more overtime and a lot more 0-0s and, tie games. And it's just, it's a different league now.
It's parity, man. I think it's the strength of the NFL. It's just, it's the old cliche. It's the old movie. Very good, by the way, Any Given Sunday. But we saw that in week 1. We saw the Bears beat the Niners. We saw a couple of shockers. There were a lot of people didn't think that the Texans were going to hang with the Colts. They did. That's a tie. A lot of people didn't think the Steelers were going to beat the Bengals. They did. Look at Monday night. Look at the Seahawks winning at home against Russell Wilson's new team. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened, but yeah, it's a parity-driven league. There's no doubt.
I saw an interaction between Hunter Renfrow and Derek Carr. They're sitting on the couch doing a podcast, and they were talking about Fresno State versus Clemson, and Hunter said, well, the worst team in the NFL, Clemson could beat them. And Derek's just like, not a chance. He goes, no way. Every NFL player was the best guy on their team. And I think Derek's right on this. I mean, I don't care how good Clemson is. It's a whole nother level.
Oh, dude. Who said that? Hunter Renfrow?
Hunter Renfrow. Well, because he came from Clemson. They were good,
He's a smart guy. He's smarter than that. The best college team would get obliterated by the worst NFL team. Because you have to think of it like this. Whoever the best college team is, just take your pick. If it's Georgia, Bama, whoever. They've got, between their starters, just the 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, you're going to have many guys that never step foot on an NFL field. They're not going to make it in the
Never
NFL.
see it at all.
Like, are you telling me a team that has 6 dudes on offense or 5 dudes on defense that don't step foot in the NFL, they're not going to get wrecked by an NFL team who has all professional players? It's the dumbest argument of all time.
Destroyed. Coming up next, you're going to tell us what you think is going to happen this week, right? You going to do that for me? You stick around?
I will do that. Are you paying me? Are you paying me?
Oh, yeah,
for
for
this?
sure.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.
The autumn wind is a pirate. blustering in from sea, with a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash, with a silver hat about his head, and a bristling black mustache. He growls as he storms the country, a villain big and bold. And the trees all shake and quiver and quake as he robs them of their gold. The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
Welcome back to Inside the Patch, 1430 ESPN, your local sports leader. I'm Gnarley Charley, and I want to thank Fresno Rack and Shelving for sponsoring the show along with Porta Subs. So I got Brian Noe here now, who does nationwide sports news and gambling tips too. Who do you got for the coin flip on the Raider-Cardinal game?
Tails.
Are you going heads or tails?
Tails. Tails never fails, Gnarly. Can't
Solid
forget that.
tails.
Yeah.
Solid tails. All right. And have you ever ran into Bill Romanowski? Because that'll knock you out. He's gonna
No, I never have. But I loved watching Romo play back in the day. I think about you interviewing him. I don't know if you're going to ask him about spitting on J.J. Stokes, but it's almost like a Zach Galifianakis thing, where I just picture anybody asking Romo that and then being like, stupid. I'm stupid. I shouldn't have asked that question at all.
Well, okay, so I went to the Monday Night Football game in Denver. He'd just become a Raider, and some guy had a blow-up sex doll, and it said, Romo is a, and it started with an H, and he was like, right? I've told that story to people. Well, I was talking to Bill about the show here, and I'm halfway into the story, and I realized I can't tell him that. I don't want to say that. And so I'm like, I need an alternate ending. So I go, and so I went up and I popped the balloon thing and I beat him up, which is none of that's true. But I was like,
by the way, this is completely random. I don't even know if this is a good story to share, but it reminds me, I went to a Carolina Panthers game. It was a couple of years ago. And I ran into a girl that I knew from college. And I was at one of my friend's houses in Indiana. And I started to tell him the story of the girl that I bumped into. And this guy that's my friend, he was dating somebody else. And I'm in the middle of this story. And he gives me this look of like, no, don't say her name. And so I'm in the middle of this story and I'm like, oh, dude, I bumped into, and he gives me the look and I had to change it on the fly. And I'm like, like John. And it was crazy.
You're like trying to get the third base signal from the coach. Like, was that bunt? What I don't have an ending now. Now I'm going just ridiculous.
Nothing. Yeah.
You can always fake a seizure or swallow your tongue. I mean, that's always a nice out too.
It's a good way to do it. Yeah. I was at a Cardinals-Cubs game years ago. I'm a Cardinals fan. My dad is from just outside of St. Louis. And so we're in Wrigley. We're with the bleacher bums. And somebody had this cardboard cutout, life-sized, of Michael Jordan in his Bulls uniform. Again, this is Chicago. And the sign said, be like Mike. Right. And he had a St. Louis Cardinals ball cap on his head. And these bleacher bums are like, we're going to kick your, like, bleepity, bleep, 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 bleep. They went crazy.
Could not handle it.
Oh, it was hysterical, man. I love that.
And I love your pride in your team. But nowadays, there's no your team loyalty. Your players are bouncing, Yeah. And how the Niners and Raiders around Fresno, they're kind of enemies. Yep. And when Jerry Rice came to the Raiders, the Niner fans were just beside themselves.
Yes.
How could he?
Yes. Oh, no doubt about that.
Hey, what do you think about Davante Adams' debut as a Raider?
That's a great debut for Davante Adams. It was just those 3 interceptions were killers.
I mean, but if you look across the board, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a good day. A lot of people didn't have a good day. And I hate, because a lot of people say, well, they need to play that preseason game. And I'm like, no, I hate preseason. But maybe they do. Maybe Derek needed to get out on the field a little bit. I don't know.
By the way, before we get to the picks, I got to give you a shout out, Gnarls, here. For the people, when you mentioned, I went over to KISS for that week, and I was doing traffic updates, and we're having some fun. We're goofing around. and you did some voice tracking. So you would voice track like a Saturday show. And for the people that don't know, it just means recording things. You put it into the system and you're like, all right, that was Miranda Lambert. And don't forget to buy tickets on the website and yada, yada. And right before you started, I would give you something completely off the wall to work into your minute and a half, whatever you were saying.
And you said you had to say the word.
You were I would come up with the most Mike Tyson. Hey, it's Gnarley Charley, yada, and you would somehow work in Mike Tyson perfectly. You're a pro.
Well, I appreciate that. I think, and something I got it ridiculous. I remember once, I think you were trying to throw me off. You were throwing weird ones at me.
Yeah.
And you said HIV, and I go, oh my gosh. And I remember going, bees love HIVs. Yes, they do. This is dumb. Now, I know you're a Dolphin fan at heart, right?
I am.
And so Laces left or whatever. And what's the guy's name for the movie, Ace Ventura?
Is it Ray Finkel?
Finkel?
Yeah.
And, believe it or not, I used to look like Dan Marino. I don't now, but enough to where I was at his restaurant in Florida when I was living in the Bahamas. I told somebody I was Donnie Marino, his brother, and they believed it.
Did you get some isotoners or something out of it?
I got nothing, not even snow crab, nothing, but it felt good. I'm trying to get Brandon Mahali. You know who he is?
Who is the guy?
He went to Fresno State.
Okay.
He was in the movie The Longest Yard.
Okay.
He was in Adam Sandler met him on the set of The Waterboy. He was the football, he scripted all the plays.
Okay.
He put him in it. And Mr. Deeds, you ever see Mr. Deeds?
Yes. Yeah.
He was the quarterback from the Jets.
I'd have to see. It's been so long.
And he also was in
Mr.
Dodgeball.
Deeds, does Adam Sandler have like a charcoal foot or something in that movie at one point?
Yes. And then remember, they bought the Jets, and he was the quarterback of the Jets. And then fast forward, Dodgeball. He's Laser from the.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
You will recognize. You go. I see.
I would definitely recognize him from Dodgeball for sure.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna ask Romo about him too because they were in a couple movies together.
Dude, that would be so funny.
All right. So, Brian, the Raiders are playing the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think here?
Raiders all day, and this isn't to suck up to the silver and black over there in the valley. I know how it goes. You're still hoping for 16-1. That's not going to happen. I'm not trying to just suck up to you guys, but yeah, I love the Raiders in this spot because the Cardinals are not good. The Cardinals are especially not good without DeAndre Hopkins, and he's gone for the next 5 games. So you saw them. I don't buy this Chiefs defense being like the 85 Bears, like some people are talking about. Oh, they're so much faster and quicker. I think it has more to do with Arizona's offense. And Cliff Kingsbury, this freaking guy, not having DeAndre Hopkins is like Cliff Kingsbury's kryptonite over there. So, yeah, I like the Raiders in this spot. All
right, we're going with the Raiders. Fantasy football. Are you a fantasy football guy or not? Is it your thing or no?
I've been retired since about 06.
06?
I like it. I'm not against it. It just, for me, it changes the way I watch football. I'm so laser focused on who my team is, or sometimes I have to root against my team, or if I have a Dolphins player that doesn't score, I'm like, that sucks. I wish my guy would have scored. It's just not for me.
Well, Derek Carr was nice enough to do this for me.
Gnarley Charley selects me, Derek Carr, your quarterback. Yeah, and Gnarley Charley's going to pick me.
Oh, my gosh.
And so the thing is, I didn't tell him to say number 1, but he said number 1, so I had to pick him first because I had the video. I had to do it.
By the way, I love Derek Carr's low-key Southern accent.
Yeah, and Gnarley Charley's going to pick me.
I don't know where it came from, but
it will. It's Texas too.
It's the Texas influence, yeah. But David doesn't sound like that.
No, but Baker's. Well, here's the thing: they moved when David moved to Houston. They took Derek. He was 10.
Okay.
So he went to high school there. Plus, I don't know. There's a little bit of redneck in Bakersfield too. So it's got that sound.
What percentage would you give the redneck factor in Bakersfield?
I'm gonna actually his voice. I'm gonna go 79.
79. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's always fixing to do something. I'm fixing to do this, and so I'm not sure how that works out. And he's just got that good old boy attitude.
So, in your opinion, his Southern accent is 79% Bakersfield and 21% Texas?
Yeah, I think it is more. I would say slightly more of a ditch bank hinge to it. You know, so it's the Fresno Bakersfield sound is a little more forced.
Yeah,
and it's really coming from Larry the Cable Guy more than it is the actual. The Texas seems to take it slow, like y'all.
What I would love for you on your show sometime, Gnarls, to do a breakdown of Derek Carr's words and be like, you hear how he said football? Bakersfield. That's Bakersfield influence right there. And just go like 3 to 5 words and be like, that's Texas. You hear how he said gnarls? Like that's Texas.
Texas is slow and long, where Bakersfield got that hint of meth too. You know, it comes from that
it's quick.
Kind of
it's straight up Southern. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not authentic.
52's the mock. Like that's the meth-induced Bakersfield. Yeah.
I love it. Brian, no, thank you for being on the show. Maybe we'll have you next week. I hope so. I'd like to catch up with you every chance we get.
Hey, man, you know? I'm here for you, Gnarls. Just hit me up, man. I'm in with you.
You need to know, Brian. No, and what's your Twitter and Facebook and all that? How can I?
On Twitter at the No Show, and you spell it NOE. At the No Show is where you can find me. Yep.
So you want him to be a no show?
Yeah, right? yeah. Be a no show supporter by not no showing and actually showing. It's at the No Show. Yeah.
Can we get GoPro to sponsor the No Pro? I mean, there's something.
Oh, that's a good idea right there. I like.
Think we need to make that happen.
Yeah, I like.
We're just going to send them this right now.
You're a marketing machine. GoPro. Absolutely, you've got the ideas. You're a visionary.